Content pillars, content buckets, content themes, no matter what you've heard them called across the internet, they all basically mean the same thing. Content pillars are a way to organize your overall content strategy, your content creation process, and exactly what you're creating and producing on social media. I've actually been creating content strategies and implementing them over the last 10 years of my career. And the core and foundation behind the content strategy and how you execute content creation is through these content pillars. It is something that I think is essential for every small business owner, no matter how small your business is, no matter how large your business is, and no matter how simple or complex your entire content strategy is. I've created a super simple and easy way for you to formulate content pillars that will make this whole thing a lot easier for you. And I want to break it all down for you here today. So if you're very, very new to content pillars or the idea of these, I want to give a quick little definition and some examples. I actually like to approach content pillars in a little bit different of a way. I think of them as a system and not this like overarching ideology that you must follow, but instead it is a system to help make content creation easier and more efficient and effective for your small business. It is a way to categorize the content that you have in your small business so that you know that you're always hitting on pain points for your target audience. You're talking to that target audience and you're not going so far off the beaten path with this new trend and it's not even relevant to you and your audience and your business. It's a way to streamline and kind of reel you in and make sure that we're doing what we need to be doing with our content. We want to keep the content pillars broad enough so that you can formulate a ton of content ideas under those pillars, but we need to keep them relevant enough to your business, your niche, or your industry. Typically where I see this start to click for small business owners is when I kind of approach it in this way. If there is a piece of content or a content idea that you come up with and it doesn't fit under those pillars, I simply ask you the question, then why are we posting it? It gives you the why and the foundation behind every single piece of content that you create and make sure that we're strategically aligned with everything that we're putting out to market our small businesses. Before we dive into some examples and I walk you through how to kind of formulate these for yourself, I want to give you one big content pillar no-no, and this is what starts to trip people up. You think to yourself, or you've seen an infographic, or you've heard this other marketing expert that they claim to be on Instagram, and they'll say things like your content pillar should be education and motivation and inspiration. It's a big no-no. Those are actually not ways to categorize your content. That is the end goal and the end result of your content. And I'll break it down in a quick example here. Let's say one of my content pillars was inspiration. Let's just use that as an example. And I have a cute photo of my dog trying to get over the hurdle of this like obstacle course or something like that. And I decide I want to post that on Instagram. And I think to myself, that's an inspirational piece of content. But is it relevant to my audience? Is it relevant to my business? And if it's not, then why am I posting it? Other than, oh, everybody will say like cute dog, cute this, whatever. It's not relevant in marketing my business. And that's why a lot of these very generic content pillars that people claim of motivation, education, inspiration simply don't work. It's not a great way of creating a system and creating a strategy in which you create content. Instead, if I have more aligned content pillars, I could take an idea where the end goal would be to inspire, the end goal would be to motivate, and the end goal would be to educate. And the way that I approach content pillars, I want small business owners to have 5 very strategic content pillars, and 5 just seems to be a great number for vast majority of people. If you have less, that's totally cool too. I don't want you to have more than 5. And as we get into some examples, it'll kind of start to click for you and why it's important to just have the 5. So what my content pillars look like, I have content systems, content strategy, content creation, content distribution, and then I have one that it's kind of fun and I play around with and I call it against the status quo. And this is where I can put more of the personal thought leader stuff because my business is typically against the status quo of what you see from most marketers. Those content pillars are so broad and all-encompassing of things that I do in my business, but they are so specific to who I am, what I do, and who I serve. So now that I've given you the foundation here, I want to kind of walk you through how you're going to create these for yourself. The easiest strategy that I like to teach clients and people online is the reason why we have the 5 is I want you to align them to days of the week. And typically for most small business owners that I serve and the people that I talk to, we're posting Monday through Friday. Most of the time we're not posting on the weekend. And if we are, it might be a random story or we try and log off on the weekend. So I want you to find a content pillar and align it to each day of the week. And this is also going to allow you to strategically align your content to where your ideal audience is throughout the week, kind of what they're going through. You don't always want to deliver heavy, hard-hitting content, salesy posts, whatever that looks like, on like a Friday when people are tapped out and they're scrolling through TikTok because they don't want to be working anymore. Or maybe you have something that you really want people to implement that week. You have a tip, you have a strategy, you have a whatever. You want to put that on a Monday so that people are ready to dive in, they're focused, and they see that post and they want to execute on it right away. So start to think of these things as you formulate your content pillars. We're going to dive into an activity here, and I want you to either get out a piece of paper, you can do this digitally, whatever works best for you, but this is really going to help formulate and start to group together everything that you know into pillars that are going to make sense for you. So first, I actually want you to go into your analytics, go into whatever platform you're creating on, and see what content is already performing the best for you. And as you're analyzing this content, can you find themes in that content? You might start to see that, okay, my highest performing content are carousels that relate to this topic, or maybe they're reels around this topic, or can you find visual elements, or what is it about that content that's performing so well that is resonating with your audience? Try and find those cues and those themes. And I want you to start writing that down. Literally, we're just going to go through and start writing a list of everything that you notice about that content. As you analyze, I want you to try and write down at least 10 different things. 10 different things that you're starting to recognize about that content. It could be the specific content idea itself. Write down 10 things. Now, your next goal, and this is going to seem outlandish and wild. I want you to write down 40 things that you can talk about. Yes, 40. They can be super specific. They can be very, very niche. They can be very, very broad. Think of anything that you could go and talk about. If you had to get up on stage right now with no preparation, no presentation, what is something that you could talk about? I want you to go back into your career and things that you've experienced, even if it's not kind of correlated to what you do now. Think about things that you know as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, or even as a person. And right now, we're not thinking about the end goal. We're not thinking about the content pillars. I simply want you to have 50 things written down on a list. The next step here is to start to look at these and categorize them. And if you're more of a visual person, I want you to get out the Post-it notes, get out some highlighters, colored pencils, markers, like whatever works best for you, and start to group like items together that are on that list. If this is digitally, like copy and paste, move things around, whatever works best for you in your brain, but start to categorize these and see if you notice if those 5 content pillars start to kind of produce themselves. What is so unique about the way that you're grouping those items together? What kind of category would you place around that? And this is how we can start to strategically align your ideas, your thoughts, content that you could potentially produce into these content pillars. We're kind of reverse engineering it here. And keep in mind, your content pillars aren't public. You can give them cute names if you want, or they can just be random words. It doesn't matter as long as you know what they are. But I want to get you into some examples here. First one being a hairstylist. So some content pillars for a hairstylist could be things like DIY hairstyles. It could be Hair School 101, where they're educating people on how to properly take care of their hair. It could be client results, like showing the transformation. It could be curly hair tips, where they're specifically talking to one segment of their audience. And the last one could be products I recommend, or products to use. And you can see that these are broad enough that there are a lot of content ideas that we can create within that for this particular hairstylist, but it's also super specific to that person's niche. And notice that for this particular hairstylist, their main focus is getting new clients. So a lot of these content pillars, it's not going to be directed towards another hairstylist, like how to run your salon. No, that's not a content pillar. That's not her end goal with her content. That is not her ideal audience. And the way that we can start to shape these content pillars and start to align them to days of the week, we can kind of think like her clients would think. Vast majority of them are probably working throughout the week, and they book their hair services on the weekend, or they have services done on the weekend. Let's say on Monday and Wednesday, she might be posting more information and relevant content to people with curly hair, or just giving more generic hair education and how you should take care of it. As we approach the weekend, maybe on Thursdays, she's posting client results because she knows She's going to have an influx of people sitting in the chair this weekend, and she wants to give them inspiration, and she's going to show those clients the transformation that she might provide for them. On Friday, right before the weekend, maybe people have big events. She's posting more DIY hairstyles and showing people how they can do their hair to go out on a date, to go to a birthday party, to go wherever they need to go. Those are ways that we are priming her audience to consume her content in a way that makes sense. But you can see how we start to strategically align these content pillars to days of the week and really make it easy for her audience to consume that content when it's best for them. Another quick example here would be for a social media manager. So for that social media manager, their content pillars could look something like social media tips, social media strategy, client results and transformations, business building, and then maybe the last one could be content ideas. So again, you can see as we formulate these content pillars, how can we start to align them to days of the week? Towards the beginning of the week, they might give away more of their social media tips, social media strategy, showing off client results, because as people sit down to start to work on their social media posts for the week, those kinds of things as they're scrolling through Instagram, that ideal client for that social media manager will be more likely to implement those kind of things versus like on a Friday when they've kind of checked out. Whereas towards the end of the week, maybe they talk more about business building and they talk more about here's some fun content ideas that you can try, because it's a little bit lighter of content versus like such heavy, hard-hitting strategy pieces. So I want you to take these exercises and these examples and really start to formulate your content pillars. And know that these don't have to be so rigid that they stay the same over time. I like to review my content pillars once a quarter and make sure things are still in alignment. Sometimes I adjust them. But just know you want to keep them broad enough so that you can formulate a lot of different content pieces within them, but you want to make sure that they are relevant to you, your niche, and your business, so that we're strategically creating content. And if you're still struggling with content creation processes, especially developing your 5 strategic content pillars, just know that there's a little bit more help if you need it. Inside of my workshop, the content curriculum, I not only walk you through a deeper dive in some more exercises on how to strategically create those content pillars, but I show you how to align those 5 strategic content pillars, and we create 325 different content ideas underneath them. And it's a very unique framework that allows you to use those content ideas year in and year out, similar to how a teacher would with her curriculum, hence the name of the workshop. Feel free to grab that workshop at the link below. Otherwise, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you next week.